Hello, planet Earth. Welcome to my YouTube channel. We're at IDK, my BFF Jill 730.
My BFF Jill 730.
I'm Preston L. Young, wishing you warm salutations and congratulations as always. You've made your way to the Buffington Post.
You are invited!
So now that we've gone through all 60 issues of the Buffyverse Season 9, including Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 9, Angel and Faith Season 9, as well as Willow Wonderland and Spike a Dark Place, it's time to start wrapping things up with some discussion videos on this season and, just kind of hopefully get a little insight into what's really going on with the characters in Season 9. And I decided today to start off with what I personally feel is the weakest element, or at least the biggest missed opportunity of Season 9, and that is our demon halfling twins of Pearl and Nash. Now, I didn't even have, enough on Pearl and Nash to really make any notes for this, because, as I'll discuss, there's just not a lot of development for those characters, there's not a lot of individual voice for either of them, and their relationship dynamics pretty much remain static throughout the season. And as I was preparing to make this video, I couldn't decide if I wanted to argue Pearl and Nash as shadows for Angel and Faith, or if I wanted to argue them as shadows for Nadira, but in the end I decided that you can really argue it either way and the argument's fine. And so I'll be exploring both of those arguments as we jump into the darker side of the dark side with a Buffyverse discussion on Season 9's Pearl and Nash. Here we go.
Silver spoons, hoping to find we're two of a kind. Make it a go, make it grow together. We're gonna find our way together, taking the time each day to learn all about those things you just can't buy. Silver spoons together. You and I, we're gonna find our way. You and I, together, we're gonna find our way. You and I, together.
And so I guess the obvious thing about Pearl and Nash is that they are kind of literal shadows of Angel and Faith. Angel and Faith have very dark features, where Pearl and Nash have very light, nearly albino features. We have Angel and Faith throughout the season trying to put their lives back in order, trying to put things back in order, whereas we find Pearl and Nash trying to aid Whistler in creating more chaos. And so you can look at these two pairs of characters as being shadows for one another, because you've got the kind of formerly evil people trying to, make good on their lives, and then you've got these kind of just lost people. I guess that's the thing, they're all kind of lost, but you've got two characters who are trying to better themselves, and two characters who, again, are just kind of static and just kind of grasping at straws to kind of make a place in the world for them where they belong. Whereas, again, Angel and Faith are trying to kind of clean up their messes and make sure that others belong. And I suppose the biggest contrast between these two pairs of characters would actually be that throughout the season, Pearl and Nash are very much on the same side. We don't ever really see them bicker or argue or kind of flip sides or one doing something that the other isn't privy to. They are very much two sides of a whole, and really kind of the same side of the same whole, because they don't really have personalities per se. They don't really have anything that distinguishes them necessarily from any other kind of super-powered villain out there in the Buffyverse, except for the fact that they have awesome, flight and laser eyes and awesome, Psylocke-type powers. And that's pretty much it. They don't develop any as characters. And we go through the season and we see that they're always on the same page. They're always on the up and up with one another. They don't ever kind of have any kind of conflict between the two of them, juxtaposed to Angel and Faith, who throughout the season have all of this conflict between the two of them. Faith is constantly doubting Angel, and Angel is constantly hiding things from Faith. And so I guess the biggest kind of juxtaposition here is just that these two characters communicate well and they have a common goal, whereas Angel and Faith, sure, they end up having this kind of common goal, but it's kind of just Angel's idea and Faith is simply going along with it. She does, of course, come to the realization that, hey, maybe bringing Giles back is the best thing for everybody, but she's never really sold on the idea, and when it happens that they've brought Giles back, Faith isn't too thrilled about having put Giles, in this child's body. We look at Angel and Faith, and they are trying so desperately hard to stop Whistler, Pearl, and Nash from doing this whole, reintroducing magic into reality. And Pearl and Nash are just in awe of this reintroduction of magic into this new Magic Town situation. They are looking around at this chaos and carnage, and they think it's beautiful. And that's the real difference. We have them as kind of this brother-sister duo that we kind of look at Angel and Faith as. He very much does fill that big brother role for Faith. The dynamic between Faith and Buffy is that Buffy should be the big sister, but Faith has done so much to kind of undermine Buffy's trust that it's Angel who kind of fills that role for her. And we get Pearl and Nash, and they do have this literal sibling bond. And the really interesting thing about this is by the end of the season, we have one of them leave the other. We have Nash literally die on Pearl, but we also have Faith kind of abandon Angel. And so at the end, we see that both of these pairs are kind of ripped apart from one another in different ways. And so while I feel initially that the idea was that they would be these kind of shadow juxtapositional characters to, Angel and Faith, there's not a lot throughout the season to make us really care about Pearl and Nash. And I feel like, again, this is a huge missed opportunity because they're really great elements that they could have explored about these characters, and they just don't. And everything in Angel and Faith Season 9 is, aside from that, is really strong because we've got so much development for Giles, who is not even alive for most of it, but we learn so much more about Giles than we had ever learned before. And we have a lot going on with, the relationship with Angel and Connor, the relationship Willow and Angel, and, bringing Spike in. And we have all these really good things, including Alasdair. I enjoy Alasdair as well, but at the end of the day, Pearl and Nash should have been a much clearer representation of what Angel and Faith might have turned out to be. You see where I'm going with that? But again, it's just not there on the page, and so, what can you do? There's also an interesting argument to be made that they are kind of a split shadow self of the Nadira character. Now, we know that Pearl and Nash are both, really old. They were born, back in the 1930s during the Dust Bowl, and they are literally the product of a woman kind of invoking the essence of a demon, which, when you look at Nadira, that's what a Slayer is. What we know about the creation of the Slayer is that it is a human living woman body that is kind of imbued with the power of this demon. And so you've got Pearl and Nash, and they are literally the product of this woman taking in a demon. And then you've got Nadira, who is herself a woman with kind of the demon power within her. Now, we move throughout the years, we see Pearl and Nash, and they procreate, and in the 70s, we see that there is this massacre of their magical children that they've made with these different magical beings, led by Alasdair. And so, sure, we have these agents come in and basically murder off all of these kind of hellspawn as they are seen. And juxtaposed to that, we have Nadira in Season 8, who, hello, there's Pearl and Nash, and they're being led by Angel, and he is kind of slaughtering all of her, mystical family members. And it strikes her hard, and Pearl and Nash, it strikes them hard too, but, back in the day. But what happens is in the beginning of Season 9, we see that Nadira is bloodthirsty going after Angel, and so are Pearl and Nash, because Angel, as Twilight, took something away from all of them. Angel led Pearl and Nash to massacre these Slayers for the greater good. And Pearl and Nash themselves were simply being used by Angel / Twilight as a way to point them away from, bigger and better, badder things for the greater good. And so this idea that Angel has of, going after the greater good and all this other, it's really fucked up all three of these characters, Nadira, Pearl, and Nash. And again, Pearl and Nash, when they see all of this carnage and this, torture that's happening to people, again, they're just like, oh my gosh, it's so cute. And that's pretty fucked up. And Pearl and Nash, though they are beautiful, they have a beautiful character design, they are lovely to look at. Like, honestly, they're gorgeous. They have this real ugliness to them, and they are filled with malice and avarice and hate. And over the course of the season, we see Nadira become more and more and more hateful and angry, and she lashes out at everything. And so by the time we get to the point where Nadira and Faith kill Nash, it comes at a price, you know what I mean? Like, Nadira realizes that these things that she was after, trying to kill, she was becoming them. And where she finds herself at the end of season 9 is literally mutilated, and she says it wasn't worth it. And interestingly enough, we have Nadira, who has been burned all on this entire side of her body, and she is, only like a half of herself now, you know what I mean? And that is what happens to Pearl and Nash. Pearl and Nash, because of their like mystical twinity, they are connected. They are two halves of the same whole. And so when Nash dies, Pearl loses like a half of herself, you know what I'm saying? And so in that respect, you can look at Nadira and Pearl and Nash as being shadows for the other, because you've got these kind of warring sides within Nadira, and she kind of goes over to one, whereas this kind of harmony between the two sides of Pearl and Nash, when that's ripped away, we have a grieving Pearl who has not grieved like this really since all of her children were slaughtered. And again, I just feel like Pearl and Nash could have had a lot more development. Like, why didn't they go about trying to have more children? Why didn't they procreate more? Why don't they ever have any moments where one disapproves of what the other is doing? I get it that they are, again, two halves of the same whole, but those halves can contradict one another in theory. And we just don't get to see any of that. They don't get to be real characters for us. We get their backstory, we get a little bit more of their backstory in Spike a Dark Place, but really you could just do away with that because it doesn't add anything to the characters. We don't learn much about these people at all, and they're supposed to be, 2/3 of our big bad for season 9. And while I would like to be more afraid of them, I'm just not. And we get so many kind of conflicting ideas about these characters, like they can massacre like dozens of slayers, but they can't even, team up against Faith and kill her. Really? It doesn't make a shit ton of sense. And I just feel like Pearl and Nash were a great idea for the beginning of season 9, but I don't think the writers really knew where to take them or how to take them into new places emotionally and just, story-wise. Again, Angel and Faith, one of their strongest points is the character design. In season 10, we get the new character design for Nadira, and it's gorgeous, and Pearl and Nash are gorgeous. And so I guess what I wanted to say with this video is that you can look at Pearl and Nash in relation to Nadira. You can look at Pearl and Nash in relation to Angel and Faith. But either way, it's kind of unsatisfying because there aren't enough pieces of Pearl and Nash on the table for you to really get a coherent whole and a real idea of who these characters are and what it is that drives them. We know that they're just trying to make this place where they can belong and, make the world around them reflect their insides, but we don't know enough about them to really make us root for them. Like, that's one thing that's really great about the Buffyverse of villains. We can root for them if we wanted to. You can take an idea that they have and it may be evil as shit, but if it's a good enough idea, you can root for it. You can get behind it. And Pearl and Nash just don't have that. I don't want them to win. Like, Whistler, he's got something much more interesting going on because, he's got this whole balance within himself that he's trying to kind of put back together, and that relates to him trying to put the balance of the world back in together. And that makes a lot of sense, and it's lovely, and it's poetic, etc. But Pearl and Nash, they don't get any kind of big metaphor behind them, and they don't have any poetry to them, and they end up just kind of falling flat, and that's all there is to really say about Pearl and Nash, as far as I'm concerned. But let me know what you thought of the Demon Twins in the comment section down below. That's pretty much all I've got for today, you guys. Hope you're having a great 2016 so far, everybody. You can come right back here to the Buffington Post anytime for Buffy the Vampire Slayer reviews, Angel and Faith reviews, Buffyverse discussions on the other Slayers, and more. I'm going to continue my Season 9 wrap-up videos, and when I get done recording this, I'm going to do a review for Westworld's season premiere, well, series premiere, but you get the idea. So good. Anyway, that's all I've got for today, you guys. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Slavery is wonderful. Happiness in slavery is wonderful. Waiting for the good machine to save us from releasing. Please save us.
My BFF Joe 730.